Alright, y'all. So, if you've been tapped into Twitter or TikTok lately, I'm sure you've heard about this whole, oh, we done with the 90s trend or whatever it is, right? So, basically, what the trend is, it was started, I believe it was started on TikTok and then it like transferred over to NBA Twitter. And it was started by this guy on TikTok whose name I'm pretty sure is Yo Reaction. It's all lowercase, no space, YOO, and then Reaction. I'm pretty sure that's him. And I'm pretty sure what he did was he started going back. He started watching full NBA games from the 80s, from the 90s, from these eras, right? And he was basically trying to see, okay, how good were these players really? And what he noticed was that a lot of players like MJ, Bird, Magic, they weren't as good as you would think they are based on the way they're talked about. Like he was saying how Jordan didn't have a left, how Magic really didn't have a handle or anything like that. He was just tall and could pass and he couldn't shoot, and like how Larry Bird really wasn't all that. Like KD, whatever, right? Like basically just saying discrediting the players of those eras because they didn't have the skills that today's players do, which is makes sense. But yeah, I won't lie to y'all. It sounds like I'm hating, but the videos. Hey, he funny as hell, bro. He mad funny. Y'all should for sure go check him out. Go support him. I know he's had multiple like 1 million plus view videos. I've seen a few of them. Like he's hilarious. Definitely go check him out. But so let's really get into the trend, right? Like what is this trend? Is there any merit to it? How do I feel about it? How should you feel about it if you're more of a casual NBA fan? Like what is the trend really real? Were these players really worse? And to me, I feel like the trend is pointless because to me it feels like it should be obvious that the players in past eras weren't as skilled as they are now. Like I'm not expecting to go back and watch Steve Kerr and say that he has the same handles or he has the same skill as Curry, or like I'm not expecting to go back and see that MJ's handle was just as tight as Kobe's, because no, like just like with everything else, we learn from the people who did things before us. So like MJ learned from the Dr. J's and the Dominiques and the Georgia Gervins and all those people, I'm sure, and the Magics and all those people, I'm sure. But he also, it's like, but then players like Kobe learn from him. Players like LeBron, Curry, Luka, Tatum learn from them. So it's like with every era, basketball is going to get better, right? So like obviously when you go back and look at those games and you compare it to what you see today, when you have Luka Doncic going out there dropping 73 with ease on the Hawks, or you have Curry hitting a game-winning shot from half court after a pump fake on the Suns, or you got LeBron doing whatever he wants to do at age 39, right? Like I'm not expecting to go back and say, oh, these players are just as skilled, because if they were, then I would be a little confused. I'd be like, how are we not learning from this? Like obviously, Kareem learned from Bill Russell and Wilt, that's why he got better, right? Like centers after him, Shaq, they give credit where it's due because they learn from all these people. So it's like we should be getting better. So it's just like, for me, the trend is a little weird because it's like I feel like it should be common sense. I feel like we should all understand that the players today are going to be better now than the players before we were. Because I was born in '03. I didn't see Jordan play, never once. I don't even remember seeing Shaq play for real. Like, by the time I got into basketball, I was probably about 5 or 6. So it was 2008, 2009. Shaq was, I think he was in like his last year, or maybe had just retired like a few years before. It was like Kobe was about to win rings 4 and 5, and I remember exactly what got me into basketball was that 2008 Redeem team. I remember watching that, and that was what made Kobe my favorite player. And then I remember I was watching basketball a little more casually, playing Black Ops 2, doing normal stuff we did at that age. And then I remember 2K10 came out. Psh, boy. But anyway, that's what basically got me into basketball, right? So it's like I didn't see these players play. But the person that's been getting the most hate to me is Michael Jordan. I've been seeing, and it makes sense. He's one of the most debatable like sports figures of all time. Like some people say he's the greatest athlete, some people say he's the greatest basketball player, whatever, right? So people are going back and they're highlighting, oh, Jordan didn't have no handle. Man, he had 5 threes in the 3-point competition. Jordan was getting left open from 3-point line. Like they were talking about, oh, players never left Jordan open. Well, clearly when you go back and look at the film, they did, right? So it's like, I understand the trend. You obviously are kind of like, for me, this trend is making it hard to say that Jordan's the GOAT for like my generation, because we're not, a lot of people don't think about things like relative. So for me, the GOAT debate and everything is really relative. So it's like Jordan, relative to his era, was great. He was by far the best player. Like he was great on both sides of the ball. Jordan was the best winner in the 90s, not in the 80s, because remember he came into the league like 84, didn't win a ring until 91. But anyway, so he was cold, right? That was what Jordan was. He was the best player in that era. That's cool, and that's impressive. That's why, to me, Michael Jordan is the second best player of all time. But it's like when you see people like LeBron out here in a better era going to 10 finals, going against teams like the 2017, 2018 Warriors, going against teams like the Spurs in '07 where he had nobody else on his team. People are talking about, LeBron couldn't win a ring until he went to Miami. Jordan didn't take them Bulls to the finals before Scottie Pippen was there. LeBron took the Cavs to the finals versus the Spurs in 2007. Sure, he got swept. LeBron, if you look at that team, I promise you, I will bet everything I own on this. There is not a single other player you could put in LeBron's spot in 2007 that would have taken that team to the finals. No shot, bro. There's no shot. So it's like, to me, LeBron winning 4 rings, beating the 2016 Warriors, the 73-9 Warriors, beating the Spurs once, beating the Thunder with Russ and KD, beating the Heat with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, right? Like, those are good wins. I'm not saying that every time he played the best team ever, but I'm just saying LeBron played against much more talented players. Jordan didn't have to go against a Curry. Jordan didn't have to go against a Kobe. Jordan didn't have to go against a Duncan, a Kawhi, a KD. He didn't have to go a Luka now, a Jokic now. He didn't have to go against any of these players. And that's not taking anything away from the 90s, which is why I'm not a big fan of the trend, because I feel like we're going a little too far. We're trying to really discredit the 90s, whereas I feel like what the trend should be used for is to point out that, yeah, players get better from era to era to era. By the time I have kids, and my kids are my age if I ever have kids, they're going to be doing the same thing with Jordan. I mean, they're going to be doing the same thing with Kobe. They're going to be doing the same thing with Curry. They're going to be doing the same thing with LeBron. They're going to be doing the same thing with all these guys, right? And it's like you can see the league continues to get more and more talented as time goes on. It's like you can even see that today when you have players like Jokic out here dominating. You have players like Giannis out here doing it on both sides of the floor. You have Luka out here putting up 73 with ease and taking teams to the Western Conference Finals with no other he had Jalen Brunson, but other than that, and that was before Jalen Brunson was even as good as he is now. We have Wemby out here hitting 5x5s as a rookie, out here probably the second leader for DPOY, maybe Anthony Davis is second, but a top 5, top 3 player for DPOY as a rookie. The league's going to keep getting better, and that's why I'm not a big fan of the trend, because 30 years from now, because Jordan was winning his rings about 30 years ago. 30 years from now, they're going to look back at LeBron, they're going to look back at Curry, they're going to look back at KD, they're going to look back at Kawhi, they're going to say, man, they was bombs, right? When you see what Wemby's doing, whatever other players are going to come in the future, like the Lukas and everything like that, and even more players that will be getting drafted, their talent level is going to increase. The league is going to keep getting better. And another thing is the league's going to keep changing. Like right now we have offensive-oriented rules where it's kind of like they're trying to reverse it because the offense is literally so dominant. Like, the defenders can't do anything no matter how good of a defender you are. You can't stop. Like, even with the way the rules are, it makes it even harder to stop a guy like Embiid, to stop a guy like Jokic. Embiid, you will assume, by the way. But to stop a guy like Embiid, to stop a guy like Jokic, to stop a guy like Luka, to stop a guy like Wemby. With the defensive rules now, bro, you can't touch them. Where it's like, I understand Jordan played more physical defense, but if you really go back and look at the 90s, while the defense was more physical, it was not better. I promise you, Kobe was a better defender than MJ. Because Kobe he learned from MJ's defense and then built on it. That's how it's going to be. There's going to be defender like Kawhi, I think, is a better defender than Pippen. He probably learned from guys like Kobe, Jordan, and Pippen and then built on that. Like Wemby, he's going to learn from guys like Rudy Gobert, AD, Hakeem, Dwight Howard. He's going to Shaq wasn't really a defender, but you understand what I'm saying. He's going to learn from these guys. He'll take Shaq's offensive game if he can put that weight in. Maybe he'll take things from Jokic. He'll take things from Embiid. That's how it goes. So for me, I understand the it's fun, right? I understand the trend. It's really fun. It's fun to make fun of things. It's fun to laugh. It's fun to go back and say, oh, these old heads were lying to us, right? When it's really they weren't. The way that we act about LeBron and everything, where it's like LeBron's doing things you've never seen, Curry's doing things you've never seen. For them, Larry Bird was doing things they had never seen. Magic was doing things they had never seen. Jordan was doing things they had never seen. And it's like the players today are so much better than the players back then, but the players back then were better than the players that came before them. Wilt was better than Mikan, right? Like, Kareem was better than Wilt. It's like stuff like that. Like, you're going to learn. Like, I believe Hakeem was better than Kareem. Now, Kareem had the better accolades, had the better career, but I believe Hakeem was probably the most skilled. Him or Jokic is probably, I think Hakeem is the most skilled center on both sides of the ball. Jokic might be the most offensively skilled center, but Hakeem on both sides of the ball, and you can't tell me Hakeem wasn't learning from guys like that. Like, Giannis literally, to this day, learns from Hakeem and learns about his footwork. Like, when you have players who pioneered the game, who are willing to teach and we have film, oh, especially with the film we have now, you can go back and watch anything. When you have access to that, players should be getting better. It's not a bad thing. It's not anything like we have to take away from the older generations or anything like that. No, it's just that that's kind of how things are. That's how time works. Like inventors, we can't go back and say, oh, Albert Einstein wasn't really doing nothing, because like we didn't know the things that Albert Einstein invented. We had no idea before him. Now there are things now that are more advanced, that are being invented and that are being found and that are being created because of the things that happened, because of the things that Albert Einstein and Isaac Newton and all those guys did. It's the same way in basketball. Because of the trials and tribulations and the skills that we saw and the deficiencies that we saw Kobe had, that we saw MJ had, that we saw LeBron had, the next generation of players, it's going to be better. Next generation of players after them, it's going to be better. It's like, I understand the trend. It is funny, but moral of the story, every future era of basketball is going to make the era before it look bad. That's how it's going to go. We can't discredit the old players. Like, I don't like when people say, oh, Bill Russell deserves to be in the top 5 just because he won so much, because there was not as much competition. But I also don't like when people say, oh, Bill Russell isn't even in the top 20 because he wasn't playing against competition. Like, no, he was just better. He just made his competition look bad. But it's like LeBron is so great, but he can't win as much because even though he makes his competition look bad, there are players in this era that are so great that you can't win them all. Jordan won them all when he was in the 90s, right? Because he had the best team and he was the best player. That's cool. And people say, oh, if Jordan didn't retire, he might have won 8 straight. First of all, we don't know that. And second of all, why do you just automatically assume they were going to beat the Rockets those 2 years, especially that first year? I'm not really with that. But back to the point, the trend is cool, trend's funny, but we can't use it to discredit, you know what I'm saying, older GOATs before us. We can't use it to discredit those players. And yeah, man, this is my first video ever, so to anyone watching this, really appreciate a like and subscribe. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. And one thing I want to do, I'm a very Christian person, as you can see, like cross necklace here, cross up on the window. One thing I want to do is end every video with the Bible verse, and today's verse comes from Mark 16:15, which states, he said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. Thank y'all. Have a blessed day.